Hey guys, gather round. I'm going to share a story that's all about finding yourself and standing up for the truth. Meet Amelia, a 34-year-old litigation attorney at Whitfield and Keene. But growing up in Ridgemont, Virginia, her life was far from the spotlight. Amelia's mom, Patricia, had a clear favorite, her younger brother, Bradley. Bradley was 29, worked as a car sales associate at a dealership outside Richmond. But Patricia would spin tailies, telling everyone he was a regional sales director on the verge of a huge promotion. She'd post gushing Instagram captions about him, while Amelia's name never even made it into the feed. Amelia had her own set of accomplishments. She graduated second in her class, earned full scholarships for undergrad and law school, and paid off her student loans all on her own. But Patricia would tell the neighbors Amelia had dropped out and moved away. Amelia still tried to stay connected, calling every Sunday, sending birthday cards, and making the 2-hour drive for Thanksgiving. But every time Patricia would steer the conversation back to Bradley before Amelia could even finish a sentence. 5 months before the big event, Amelia argued a complex civil rights case in front of Judge Richard Callaway in the Eastern District of Virginia. The opposing side was from a much larger firm, but Amelia was prepared. She rehearsed until her notes were detailed and color-coded. When she stood up to deliver her oral argument, it was like something clicked. Judge Callaway leaned forward, listening intently. And they won the case. Afterward, in the hallway, Judge Callaway stopped Amelia and said, "Counselor Townsend, that was one of the most precise oral arguments I've heard this year." Amelia didn't tell Patricia. The last time she mentioned work, Patricia cut her off mid-sentence to talk about Bradley getting a compliment from a customer. Then, one fateful Thursday at 2 a.m, Amelia's phone rang. It was Patricia. "Tomorrow evening, Bradley's fiance's family is coming for dinner. You should be there." And Amelia, keep your mouth shut. Her father is a federal judge. He's important. Don't embarrass us like you always do. Patricia also instructed Amelia that if anyone asked what she did, she should say she worked in an office, nothing about being a lawyer. Amelia was so used to this kind of treatment that she just agreed, though a part of her was starting to wonder what her mom was really hiding. On Friday afternoon, Amelia left the office at 4, changed out of her courtroom suit, and hit the road to Ridgemont. As she drove, she thought about all the times Patricia had overlooked her, like when she sent flowers and a handwritten card on Mother's Day, and Patricia only talked about Bradley bringing her breakfast in bed, or when she paid for Patricia's roof repair after a storm, and Patricia told the neighbors it was a friend, not her daughter. Amelia arrived at the house an hour early. Patricia greeted her at the door, all dressed up with freshly set hair and new pearl earrings. She walked Amelia through the house like a stage director, going over the rules again. Bradley soon arrived, wearing khaki pants and a polo shirt. He saw Amelia and gave her a half-hearted smile, saying, "Hey sis, glad you can make it. Mom told you the rules, right?" Amelia realized he knew and was okay with the charade. The dining room was a sight, like something out of a magazine. Chandelier dimmed, white linen tablecloth, fresh flowers in a crystal vase, and the good china. Patricia had even hired a caterer. Amelia found her place card at the far end of the table, one seat from the corner, as far from the center as you could get without sitting in the kitchen. Bradley's card was next to Nora's, his fiancée. Nora arrived first. She was 28, with auburn hair and warm eyes. She seemed friendly and asked Amelia, "You must be Amelia. Bradley's mentioned you. You live in D.C., right? What do you do there?" Before Amelia could answer, Patricia materialized and said, "Oh, Amelia does administrative work. Nothing too exciting." She then whisked Nora away to look at her ring. Nora glanced back at Amelia, and Amelia could tell she was a bit suspicious. At 7 o'clock sharp, the doorbell rang again. Judge Richard Callaway and his wife, Margaret, entered. Patricia introduced everyone. Judge Callaway took Amelia's hand and his grip lingered. His brow creased slightly. "Townsend," he said slowly. "Amelia Townsend." Amelia's pulse spiked. She knew that look from the courtroom. Patricia quickly tried to move things along, saying, "Okay, everyone, let's sit. The food is almost ready." but Judge Calloway kept looking back at Amelia as he was led to the table. Dinner began, and Patricia was in full control like a conductor. She talked nonstop about Bradley's so-called big deals passing the bread basket. Bradley closed 3 major deals this quarter. His manager says he's never seen anyone with such natural talent for client relationships. Bradley just nodded and grinned, never correcting her. Amelia and her dad, Dennis, who was sitting in his recliner reading the newspaper earlier and barely said a word all night, just chewed quietly. Richard and Margaret were polite but observant. Margaret noticed how Patricia cut Amelia off when she reached for the salad bowl and redirected conversation away from her. Margaret finally said, "Patricia, I'd love to hear Amelia tell us about herself." Patricia smiled and said, "Oh, Amelia's very private. She doesn't like talking about herself. Do you, sweetheart?" Everyone looked at Amelia. Amelia felt a rush of emotions, 34 years of pent upwards. She looked at Patricia and said, "I don't mind at all." Patricia's left hand tightened around her napkin. Nora leaned across the table and asked Amelia about living in D.C. Amelia started to relax and answer, "I love it. My office is close to the federal courthouse." Patricia coughed loudly, a fake cough. "Amelia, would you grab more water from the kitchen? I think we're almost out." But the water bottle was still 3/4 full. Everyone could see it. She hissed, "You said courthouse." "I told you not to mention anything about courts, law, any of it." Amelia said, "Mom, I just said my office is near the courthouse. That's geography." Patricia's finger came up close to Amelia's face. "I know you, Amelia. You always find a way to make everything about yourself. Don't you dare ruin this for your brother." Amelia just looked at her mom, seeing the fear in her eyes. She realized Patricia was terrified that her carefully constructed lies were about to fall apart. Back at the table, the main course arrived, crusted salmon. Patricia was still trying to control the conversation, but Judge Calloway was focused on Amelia. "Amelia," he said, cutting through Patricia's monologue, "how long have you been in D.C.? "About 8 years, Amelia replied. 8 years, that's a long time. What part of the city?" Patricia tried to interrupt, but Judge Calloway ignored her. He was clearly testing Amelia. Amelia met his eyes. "Yes, sir. Sir." Judge Calloway nodded slowly and glanced at Margaret. Margaret looked at Patricia, then at Amelia, and back at Patricia. Something in her expression changed, like she was starting to see through Patricia's act. Bradley then chimed in, "You know, Amelia was such a weird kid growing up. Always reading, always in her room, wouldn't play with anyone." Patricia laughed, a fake laugh. "It's true. Amelia always thought she was smarter than everyone else." Thank goodness she settled down since then. Amelia saw Nora's smile falter. She could tell Nora was seeing a different side of the family. Margaret set her fork down, and there was a moment of silence. Judge Calloway then stood up, capped his glass with a knife. "I'd like to say a few words," he announced. Patricia's face lit up, thinking he was going to toast Bradley. But Judge Calloway walked slowly around the table, heading straight for Amelia. "First, to Nora, my daughter, you've always had a remarkable ability to see people clearly, even when they prefer not to be seen. That's a gift, and it'll serve you well." Nora smiled. "And to Bradley, welcome. I believe in second impressions." Then he talked about family, honesty, and trust. The foundation of any family is honesty. Without it, everything is built on sand. I've spent 30 years on the bench, and if there's one thing I've learned, it's that the truth has a way of finding daylight, no matter how carefully someone tries to keep it in the dark. He then stopped next to Amelia's chair. "I have to say, I'm surprised to see you here." The air left the room. Patricia laughed nervously. "Oh, Amelia is my daughter. Of course she'd be here." Judge Calloway didn't look at Patricia. He looked directly at Amelia. "Who are you to them exactly?" He asked gently but firmly. Amelia knew she had to be honest. "It's true. I'm a litigation attorney at Whitfield and Keene Federal Practice. I've had the privilege of arguing 2 cases before Judge Calloway's court." Nora was shocked. "Wait, you're a lawyer?" Margaret looked at Patricia. You told us she did office work. Patricia was speechless for a moment. Then she tried to defend herself. I didn't want Amelia to feel pressured to talk about her career. She's very private. Nora said, that's not the same as lying about it. Bradley jumped in. Look, can we just get back to dinner? This isn't about Amelia. Margaret turned to him. Actually, Bradley, it seems quite a lot has been about creating a particular picture this evening. Patricia started to cry, saying she just wanted the best for Bradley. Margaret said, nobody's questioning your love for your son, Patricia. We're questioning why you felt the need to diminish your daughter to express it. Richard sat back down, having made his point. Bradley turned on Amelia. Why couldn't you just keep quiet for one night, Amelia? One night. That's all I asked. Amelia said, Brad. I was quiet all night. I sat where Mom told me to sit. I said what Mom told me to say. Judge Calloway asked me a direct question. I answered it honestly. Nora cut in. Bradley, are you asking your sister to lie? Bradley stammered. It's just how Mom is. She didn't mean anything by it. Nora stared at him. If your mom lied about Amelia's career, what about yours? Bradley finally admitted he was just a sales associate. Nora stood up. I think I need some air. She walked out and Margaret followed her. Amelia sat there looking at the mess. She felt grief, not satisfaction. Patricia stood up, still crying. I did this for Bradley. Everything I did was for this family. I wanted us to look our best. And you always have to ruin it. You always have to be the center of attention. Amelia said, Mom, I didn't ruin anything. I sat where you told me to sit. I said what you told me to say. Judge Calloway recognized me because I did my job in his courtroom 5 months ago. That's not something I did to you. That's something that happened. Amelia then said she was done pretending. She told Patricia and Bradley that she loved them, but she wouldn't be part of these lies anymore. She also apologized to the Calloways. As she left, she could hear Bradley trying to talk to Nora, but Nora said she needed time. On the drive home, Amelia's hands trembled on the wheel. She finally let herself cry, not because they hurt her, but because she was finally facing the truth. When she got home, she had 14 unread messages. Patricia was mad, saying Amelia ruined everything. Bradley was blaming her, too. But Nora messaged Amelia, saying she was sorry and wanted to talk. Margaret also left a message, inviting Amelia to dinner. The next week, Nora and Amelia met at a cafe. Nora told Amelia that Patricia had told her parents months ago that Amelia wasn't close to the family and implied she had personal issues. Bradley knew about all of it. Amelia told Nora that Bradley wasn't a bad person, but he was too passive in the face of Patricia's lies. A week after the dinner, Amelia called Patricia. She told her that she wouldn't come to any family events where she had to hide who she was. Patricia said Amelia was punishing her, but Amelia said she was protecting herself. Over the next few months, things started to change. Nora postponed the engagement and asked Bradley to start therapy. To everyone's surprise, he agreed. Bradley called Amelia on his own for the first time, telling her he was seeing a therapist. Patricia went silent for 6 weeks, then sent a text saying she missed Amelia. Amelia replied, asking her to respect her boundaries. Amelia's dad, Dennis, also called her. He apologized for not speaking up at the dinner and all the other times. It was a small but significant step. Then Margaret Calloway invited Amelia to dinner. Amelia was hesitant at first, but Margaret said it was just for her. When Amelia went, it was a completely different experience. There were no scripts, no assigned seats. They asked Amelia about her life, and Margaret said, Amelia, in this house, you never have to be anyone but yourself. Amelia was deeply touched. Finally, one day in November, Patricia called Amelia. She asked Amelia about her work. It was the first time she had ever asked Amelia a normal question about her career. Patricia said she was trying, and Amelia knew it was a start. So, guys, the moral of the story is, if you're in a situation where you're being made to feel small, stand up for yourself. The truth will set you free, and you'll find out who really loves you for who you are.